guys, it's Tim from the Board Game Rundown, and I am like over the moon excited to be talking to Kurt Covert from Smirk and Laughter, Smirk and Dagger Games. Not in that order. It started as Smirk and Dagger, went to Smirk and Laughter, and it's now
back to Smirk and Dagger.
I love it. I always thought, I'm not going to lie, full disclosure, because if I'm not going to be honest, what's the point?
Right.
I was like, why'd they change it from Smirk and Dagger to Smirk and Laughter? Because I thought Smirk and Dagger was so good.
Well, so it was, but when I started this business 20 years ago.
Okay.
All right, and when I did, I looked around at the mission statements of other board game companies. Right? I'm a marketer from way long ago, right?
Sure.
So I started looking at other companies, and they're like, we make fun games for everyone. That's not a mission statement.
No, it's
right?
broad. It's very generic.
Right. So I decided, listen, if I'm going to be a brand new entrant into the market, I want to stand for something. I want people to know what they're going to get. Mm-hmm. I want to plant a flag and that's my story.
Own it, right?
Right. So as I was doing that, I was like, all right, well, what is it that I love in gaming that I can excel at, bring to the marketplace?
Right.
What would make it special? And I love backstabbing games. I love Take That, and Tom Jolly's Whiz War is formative in my gaming past.
For sure.
So I was like, well, all right. So let's say I want to go down that route. Before I even started the idea of forming a game company, I was like, I want to create a good design, and my first two were garbage. They were playing 4-player solitaire, and it was paint drying on a wall. It was horrible.
Sure.
So I was like, I need something that high player interaction, and let's assume that I actually open a game company someday.
Right.
If I decide I'm going to specialize, let's do this backstabbing thing. And what do I love? I love when people get that smile as the plan forms in their brain, and oh, I know exactly, and then they land the blow. It's so Smirk and Dagger.
Well,
that's the idea.
When I even was getting into the hobby and was at first heard of your company, when I started gaming, right, like a lot of people, it was Dungeons and Dragons,
Yep.
It was Magic, and it was Warhammer and stuff. But D&D, everybody's got that one group where or one guy in their group that always plays a thief or something that. And my buddy, who is actually one of our co-hosts, Bob, he always played the thief or the rogue.
Yeah.
And he's always how can I steal something? Backstab, first thing.
Sure.
And it's always that smile first,
Exactly.
right, as it dawns on him.
Yeah, oh, sweet.
Yeah.
And
so,
of course, it's always the shaking of the fists and the cursing your name.
Yes,
And yeah.
Of course. And then, when we also love the games where we can backstab each other.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So when you were Smirk and Dagger, I'm that's...
Right.
I can dig it.
Well, so I did that for 14 years. Nothing came out of my game studio other than Take That Games.
Right.
We owned it. But at that time, I admittedly was a hobby business.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Sure.
I had a very lucrative career as a creative director at a marketing agency.
Oh, right on.
Right. So I did this because I loved doing it, and I did it from 9 to midnight for 14 years.
Yes.
So one game a year, it didn't matter. I didn't have to support my family. I just had to have the games pay for themselves.
Right.
And get my visions out. And I did almost all those designs myself.
Oh, wow.
So
that's a lot of work.
It was, but I loved it, and it never felt like work. And that was the whole point. I had work.
Right.
This was a way for me to be myself, create something of my own.
Right. It feels good.
Yes, and that's what I did. So the problem was, eventually I started aging out of the marketing industry.
Okay.
So there was
Oh, sure. I get what you're saying now. Yeah.
Two different times where I was the highest paid person on the payroll with the grayest hair, and we lost a client and.
Chopping block. You're first in line for the guillotine.
Exactly, and that happens once there was a huge loss at my original company, and then for 2 years, two-year cycles, I was the new guy with the high salary, and I was just never going to get out of that cycle. And I said, you know what, the universe is telling me it's time to go.
Yes.
But I had foreseen. I've been thinking about that in the future, and I said, well, if I was ever going to go full time.
Mm-hmm.
backstabbing games are a niche. I always knew they were a niche.
It is, because I've had friends that are like, nah, it's not for me. That's not my style, for sure.
So I would need, if I was going to go full time, to have a broader offering to appeal to more gamers.
Makes sense.
The problem was I had done such a good job of creating my flag that I decided, I was going to, I think it was 2014, I created a game called Sutaku. Which was a pub-style dice game, but it was push your luck.
Okay.
So you could screw yourself if you went too far.
Right.
And I was like, well, that's adjacent.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, you just backstabbed yourself though.
Yeah, so I ended up bringing that game to the Gamma Trade Show, which is the industry show. You see retailers, distributors, and I had it out on the table, and I was talking to retailers, and they're like, whoa, I'm sorry. Where is the dagger in this Smirk and Dagger game? And I'm like,
oh, whoops.
Yeah, I've done such a good job that they're balking even at like adjacency. So if I ever want to do a cooperative and abstract strategy, like I'm gonna have to let people know something else is coming from me.
Right.
And therefore, Smirk and Laughter was simply a way to communicate that, yes, I know what I've done for 14 years. This is a different thing. Because setting the expectation at the table, that's key.
Well, yeah, and I will say though, a very clever thing that I thought was that it's still like the same rhythm in the. So it's not like such an abrupt change. Right. And I remember when it first changed, I was like, wait a minute, is that a different? Or is that the same?
Right.
Not a bad thing, because if anything, it got wheels turning. And clearly you guys have done okay since the change.
Well, and honestly, what we've discovered is just how niche backstabbing games were. So I never thought I would do a co-op game.
Sure.
Because honestly, I don't like co-op games.
Fair.
Or let me revise that. I had not enjoyed previous co-op games.
That sometimes is like, you just haven't played the right one.
Correct.
Right?
And the ones that eventually I came to create or work with designers who had created something and I was just going to help develop.
Sure.
All of a sudden I was like, oh, this actually solves some of the problems I have with co-op games in one way or another, and now I feel like I can do this one. Because I'm proud of it and I enjoy playing it. But I will say that I struggled with what Smirk and Laughter would be, what it would mean, and what games I could actually have permission to print now.
Oh, right.
Because, one of the first ones was a game before there were stars.
Okay.
Which was a storytelling game, which was heartwarming and beautiful, and it was an art piece. And I was like, I love this game. I want to produce it, but I mean, it's so different.
Right.
Originally, Smirk and Laughter was going to be like, party games.
We're all like,
yeah. And I was like, but this doesn't fit that. So I kept on redefining what Smirk and Laughter was with every game I broke the rules on.
Oh, sure.
Including Shobu was like, this doesn't make sense at all.
Oh, I had two guys. I got to tell you the Shobu story since you brought it up. We were at Origins a month ago, right? Feels like yesterday. We had a booth. I'm talking to people. What were you excited about?
Yeah.
These two kids. I say kids. I'm in my 40s. They were probably in their 20s. Anybody that's not 40 to me looks like a kid anymore. And these two kids stopped by, and I'm like, yeah, what's cool? What's the best thing you've seen? And this kid talked to me for 25 minutes about Shobu.
Really?
He was so excited about it. Like, he was like, then you can do this? And his buddy's like, yeah. And I was like, where is it? And y'all were like, we were kind of in the back middle, and you guys were up towards the front. And you got to check it out. And I never was able to get away from the booth. But these two kids, probably in their 20s, loved it. Lost their minds over it.
It's an amazing game.
And it's an abstract strategy, right?
Yeah, it's so pure. Like, there's nothing thematic about it.
Right.
And
I mean, it feels very zen. Like, it looks very zen, right?
Well, so here's the thing, and this is where I ended up coming to over the past 6 years as I kept on breaking the mold and reforming what it was.
At least it was your company you're breaking, so it's okay.
Yeah. So, and obviously, if you look at my line, it's so disparate. Like, I have so many different things.
Yes.
But there is a thread which is very nuanced, but I can identify, and I think people, whether or not they're actually like aware of it, they sense it. They can say, well, this feels like your game.
Right.
And that's to say that here's what I value in gaming, and it starts with what I felt about backstabbing games. I love like a mental challenge, but I want to get swept up in the game.
Yes.
I want to feel something at the table. Now, you can define that in the end however you want, right?
Absolutely.
So backstabbing, you're gnashing teeth, you're, regaling in their demise, all that. But sometimes it's thematic. It's, there is a pathos created. There is a raucous laughter. There's, all kinds of different.
I was talking to another podcaster about this. It's the stories then that you get from playing these games. Because it's not just like, oh, I lost this and I got stabbed in the back. Like, no, that's never how the story goes. The story is a build-up, and then it's almost like a comedy routine, right?
Yeah.
There's the setup, there's the punchline, and then boom, and everybody just, it's so good.
No one who plays any of my games will ever say, oh, if I only had optimized that move a little bit more, right? When it's mathematical and,
I'm not a min-maxer. Like, those games are great.
They're great.
They're not always...
But they're not my games.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and I love when the pieces fall away to the experience. So, at some point, I'm not moving cubes on the board. I am actually helping to save sea life from the oncoming rush of oil. And if we don't, those animals die.
Right.
And you feel terrible when that little piece of wood.
Like, how is this happening?
Yeah. And so. That, to me, is the memory that we are talking about. It's the experience we're sharing, and therefore, that's the kind of things that I really value in gaming. Now, Shobu is still an outlier, but I'll tell you how I eventually wrapped my head around it, because I saw the design up in Toronto at a board game design show. I was talking with the designers, Manolis, and all of a sudden, I was like, I love this game so much. Why can't I have a pretty thing?
Oh.
And so I finally said, what the feeling that you get, even though it's an absolute pure abstract strategy, is that it doesn't feel like something that was created. It feels like something that was dug up, that was discovered, that's ancient. And there's a certain respect you feel coming to the table. It feels
very classical.
Yes.
Looks very classical.
And you're right, it does feel very zen when you're playing. It's all about balance.
Right.
And you get that. So it does create an emotion, even though it's a pure abstract.
Yeah, I mean, again, from my perspective, and I'm a way outsider, I just enjoy playing board games and talking about it. But it's like, it seems to me the more versatility and the more agile you are in the market, even the better, right? Because now you can still have your backstabbing and fun games, but now you got stuff to offer other people.
Exactly.
And like, let me just say the brilliance of Boop, because that is so backstabby, but it is designed in a way that you just don't even realize how backstabby it can be. You know what I mean? With it can be mean, I guess.
Yes, because it's head to head, so it's not really backstabby,
but it's mean. Yes. And I kind of equate those sometimes the same way, because it can be a little take thatty, but it's so cute because you just pop that little kitten off the bed. It's hilarious. You guys are clearly crushing it. With that.
Oh my God! I can't even tell. Boop is lightning in a bottle.
Sure.
And if any one of the things that is driving the interest in this game were removed, it would completely change.
Right.
So when Boop was first presented to me, it was a game called Gekatai.
Okay.
It was white.
Very close. I can see how you got to Boop.
It was white and black stones on a wood board.
Okay.
And it didn't even have the graduating pieces at that time.
Oh.
Right? It was
so you can't even upgrade your cats.
No, it was 3 in a row, done, over with. And so I played it with Scott Brady, the designer, and I said, well, so Scott, it's interesting, but right now I feel like it needs a mid game. So find a way to create the arc, the narrative arc of a game, so I feel like a whole journey along.
Right.
So and that's that's the drama of a game. So. And he said, oh, okay, yeah, and he thought about that. And I think he got that feedback from other people as well.
Sure.
And but I said the other problem I'm having is, I'm going to have to put this game up against Shobu, which has like amazing table presence.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So right now it needs to at least to like measure up to that, and it's not, it's less. So I don't know how to market this game. So he was disappointed. He, went away. He was, pitched to other people, and he came back 8 months. I saw him at another convention.
Okay.
And he's like, "Hey man, I fixed the game. I put it, this kind of new piece on the game. The graduating pieces." He's like, "Oh, let's try it." And I was like, "Scott, this game is great. I love it. It's like it's just like a step down from chess. It's very thinky.
Yes.
Great. It's challenging. It's very frustrating. Like you said, like when those pieces like kind of scatter, you're like, damn you, what do you?
I was so close. I was gonna convert like 3 in just a minute.
Yeah.
Now you've ruined it.
Exactly. So I said that's great, but I still have the same problem.
Oh,
I don't know how to market
presentation of it. Right.
He's like, and then he like on cue, he pulls out of his bags. But what if it was about cats on a bed? And I'm like, you marvelous bastard.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny because when I first saw it, the first thing I said literally was, that's not fair. Because it's like, well, now I have to check this out because it's so damn cute.
Yeah.
And then the theme and the way that the box and then the little mattress pad on, like the little quilt kind of thing that you put down.
Right. Well, so here's the thing. Scott had the whole vision of how to make how to make the game like really robust, and then had the great cat theme. But at that point it was called Pounce House.
Okay.
And Pounce House, I thought it was a solid name, but I was like, does it feel a little juvenile, or does it feel too dexterity based?
Right. It does sound.
Yeah.
It does convey a different vibe than what the game actually gives you.
Yeah.
Right.
So I said, well, when you have an abstract, you want a pithy, punchy title. It's just, if you think about the great ones, chess.
Right.
Like,
Catan.
Go.
I mean, everybody knows, right?
Yeah.
Sorry,
so
Monopoly.
It's got to be kind of, hard hitting. So I was like, it needs to be quippy. And I knew the vision I wanted for it was like, it's got these, he actually did 3D printed cats. They were adorable. And I was like, I kind of want to go down the like kawaii cat, for the visual. And while I cannot illustrate at all the way I would love to, I can hack cartoons. So those are my illustrations out there.
You did these?
I did these, yeah.
These are awesome, you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, Aaron, I already know you know about Boop, but yeah, I love to hear the story about how that happened. Well, and again, right, Boop, we say Boop to anybody. They know.
Yeah.
They already know. Whether it's Boop, anything like that.
It's an internet meme, really.
Yeah, it really is.
And so I was like, well, that fits perfectly with like...
Well, I've got cats, so I get booped,
and
my things get booped off of tables and everything.
Well, he when he sat down, his version of the game had like he used chess pawns for bedposts.
Oh, okay.
And he put like a little crinoline paper around the board. And I was like, well, there's got to be a way. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to produce that.
Right.
But there's got to be a way to preserve what makes that fun as a bed.
Right.
So that's when I thought up, well, wait a second. The bottom of the box could be flipped over and be the bed frame. And what if it was a quilted game board?
Yeah.
And so you take any one of these pieces out of it,
changes it completely.
It's if this was plastic pieces on a square board, no one cares.
Right.
But even though the game is just as good, and sometimes it's just everything comes together and creates magic.
Well, that's when, theme. I go to a game sometimes because of theme and then stay for the mechanics and the experience. I could play Boop in its original form and probably enjoy it. Right? And be like, oh yeah, this is a really neat little tactical game.
Yeah.
But then but my wife would never look at it.
Right.
She'd be, no. Like, I walk into my house with Boop, my 11-year-old wants to play it, you know what I mean? My wife wants to play it, my in-laws want to play it. Like, not heavy gamers, right? You go to family gatherings that don't play board games. I'm the weird one because I've got a huge board game collection. It's like, no. And I usually have to talk them into stuff, but it's like a game like Boop is like, and then the next thing they know, they don't even realize it, but I've tricked them into playing a very meaty strategy game.
Yes, and that is the beauty of what this is. It absolutely does that.
Yes, it's like, let me just look at this beautiful thing. We're like the Venus flytrap.
Right.
Like, now we have.
Oh, now I'm actually thinking. My favorite thing. So I do demos, just constantly on the game. And my favorite moment is, and especially before it had a name out there, someone would get dragged to the table. All right, I'll play the silly cat game. All right, let's go. Right. And so all of a sudden, they're like, they get into like turn 2, turn 3. They're like, and
the brow furrows.
Right. They're like, come on. It's like, hold on. Let me think about this a little bit.
No, it's a silly little cat game. Go ahead, take your turn. Take your turn. Yeah, no, it was brilliant because, we played it. We were playing it at Origin. Spencer was like showing it to everybody. He's like, guys, I played it. It's great. I'm like, really? Really? It is? I mean, it's really adorable. Like, it was a no-brainer because sometimes I just want games I can get played.
Right.
I've got games that I get to play like once a year. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I will always have those. But then when I've got games that just hit the table all the time, it's like bang for my buck, right? And, but yeah, we were playing it and we're like, oh, yeah, totally. Totally. Do you have a favorite child out of all your games?
Oh, that's so hard.
I know, it's not fair. It's not fair.
So,
which one do you hate the most and why? No, just kidding.
The answer is not really. I mean, when I adopt a game, I completely take ownership.
Yeah.
I hug it and love it to death.
Sure.
And so
it's not a fair question.
No. Here's the answer. So like anyone, it depends on who I'm going to sit down to play with, what I reach for.
Yes.
Right? So, but I will say, in terms of like, we've recently done a number of co-ops.
Right.
Spill is great. The Night Cage has been killing it.
Oh, Night Cage.
Right.
The Night Cage production value off the charts.
Right.
It's beautiful. It's creepy. A bunch of people in our group already backed, like Kickstarter backed it. Like
and quite honestly, it keeps on selling. Like even in May, all of a sudden I got a call from Barnes and Noble and Amazon. They're like, "What did you do?" I was like, "What do you mean?" Like, we just had our sales like go tenfold. What happened? I'm like, I don't.
It was a board game rundown video. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're right. It was absolutely social media content.
It catches on though, and and you've got like these nice little sleeper hits, and people don't realize, and then they sit down and play, and again, you want to talk about games that are immersive experiences, and it's like, because I remember, even just today, it was at Origin specifically, where I was like, oh, Night Cage, that's that,
right.
Because we were already all in, and sometimes you forget or don't even pay that much attention.
Sure. Yeah.
Because like Night Cage, I was there for Night Cage. Like you're in, and you're like, this is so creepy.
Yeah.
But your through line, these games that provide these experiences and these stories, win or lose, and you're like, we were so close, you know. And,
exactly.
I could have gone left, but then there was it's like, oh, what has happened? So let's just talk about some of these. We know the Halloween boo.
Yep. Which just launched here at the show.
And it's bananas.
Oh my God. So they landed in my warehouse on Monday. And, the truck had already left.
Sure.
So I was like, oh boy. So I had a friend who was actually down in Atlanta. I had him go to the warehouse, loaded up his pickup truck, and got 300 here. Now, to level set, when I launch a new game at Gen Con, I think the Night Cage, was maybe 150, 200, a decent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I figured, all right, 300. That seems
That's
about
almost,
right.
Yeah.
Plus, it's all he could fit in his pickup.
Fair.
Meanwhile, I had 400 of the regular boot. That I held back because it sold out instantly.
Yes.
But in any case, we blew through it instantly. So 700 units gone in a day and a half. And then we're like, well, should we go get more? I mean, they're in Georgia, and he found a way. 3 o'clock on a Friday with the warehouse closing in 2 hours, he found a truck, he found a driver. He got 12 different companies here at the show to say, we need help too. And he got it.
So everybody pitched in.
Everyone pitched in, and it was driven overnight, delivered here 8 a.m. this morning for opening.
That's
and guess
wild.
what? We sold all of it in an hour and a half.
I do not doubt it.
Oh, my Lord.
How good does that feel?
It's so good. We have never been like, I've come to Gen Con for 20 years.
Sure.
Everybody knows, like when those doors open, crowds are like racing in this quiz.
Yeah.
They want to get to the booth so they get the game that's most. We've never been the target of that rush. We were this weekend.
Now you are.
And my God, it's almost like when you see that coming, you're like, I
All right, get ready.
Run!
It's like Braveheart. Hold.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, you guys, it's been the buzz. When Scott came by for an interview earlier, and I was literally getting this out to like hand to Spencer, who was doing the interview. I'm like, here, you're gonna talk about it, and we're gonna go. And this mother and son were like, oh, you guys got Boop? Like, oh, we've been trying to get it for 3 days. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I feel so bad, but I need this.
Yeah.
And no, that's fantastic. I love it. I just love like awesome and fun things happening in the hobby.
Yeah.
You know, because you can hear all the horror stories. You know, you can hear about
sure. I've got plenty of them.
Mismanaged lines, you know what I mean, and bad things. There's always something that happens at Gen Con. But like, I just feed so much off of the positive that like when you hear like, sweet, like Smirk and Dagger gets to be the heroes of Gen Con this year, like
crazy.
You know, that's fantastic. And you guys don't just have Boot. We have Tesseract. Okay, so I just saw this today when you handed it to me.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about Tesseract, if you can.
I shall. And what I will tell you first off is, you were asking me what my favorite in my line. In my cooperative set, as amazing as like even Night Cage is, this is my secret new favorite.
We're not telling anyone.
Yeah, this is such a good game, and I'll tell you why. Like, one of the things that I've always had a problem with co-op games is the alpha player.
Yeah, the quarterback. Yeah, I hate the quarterback.
Right.
Not interested.
Right. So both of my other cooperative games have dealt with that in different ways. You know, either it's a randomizing element, or it was, you know, it was just kind of, the atmosphere took over, the thematic took over, and it didn't really, it didn't lead to it.
Yeah.
This game is the most collaborative co-op I have ever seen. All the mechanics funnel you towards having conversations, offering help to people,
right on,
and asking for help to do the things you need to do. And there's so much information you can't wrap your head around it all. Even the perspective around the board. So, like, I don't know if you can see this, but
maybe a little. Yeah. They should be able to see it on there.
In any case, like, it's a cube of 64 dice sitting on a rotating platform.
Yes.
Yeah. It is. It's a game of dice manipulation. So it's not about rolling dice where it's all random. Those cubes are things you are going to adjust. It's a puzzle game.
Nice.
And you are trying to take cubes off of that and contain a tesseract, which is about to rip a hole in time-space.
Nice. You don't want that to happen.
That's bad. So you're going to contain them in a matrix, and you've got to fill that out completely. But it's constantly trying to arm itself, so you have to manage it arming itself.
It's adapting as you're trying to contain it.
Yeah, and so everyone is honestly just even the character abilities are networked.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, I might have an ability where at the conclusion of it, I'm going to have to give a cube away to another player who can best use this, whereas someone else is like, all right, if I can get three completely different actions, I get a fourth free action, can you hand me that so I can power that next turn?
Start chaining some combos and get some stuff going.
And so everyone there's no downtime. You're playing everyone's turn without having one central person because everyone is feeding in what they need or want or how can I help?
Right. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
And
man,
it sounds very organic as well, right?
Yes, it's not forced. It's just the natural consequence of playing, and to me, that is the delight of actually a great co-op game. So the interesting thing then about it is the difference between the one-player game of this and the four-player game is that as a one-player game, you don't have them to help.
Right.
You are going to miss a lot of opportunities because there's just too
many. There's nobody feeding you things.
Right.
Yeah, and then you're not always seeing every single angle.
Correct. And even the fact that you're looking at the cube in a different way can change things.
Right.
So all of a sudden you're like, wow, how many things am I going to miss? And do I miss too many?
Right.
Whereas a four-player game, how well are we communicating to not just do what we want to do, but work with everyone to a common goal?
Yes.
And so that's the brilliance of this game, and I absolutely love it. This is coming out, it will get to our warehouse in probably like 2-3 weeks, so like right around October 1 is when it's actually going to be in retail.
Right on. So everybody keep your eyes open for that. I'm going to move this.
Yeah.
I really want to talk, well, I want to talk about everything. But I really want to talk about Spill. I kept like walking by this setup at Origins just for table presence. I'm a sucker for great table presence.
Right, so am I.
I will tell you, Tesseract is automatically going to have built-in great table presence.
Yeah, you can't help but I want to touch it.
Yeah. Like the contrast, the starkness of Shobu, I feel like gives it its table presence, right? I mean, Boop, table presence, right? Spill, you literally have this big like rig right in the middle of the board.
Yeah, it's a 4-way dice tower that represents an oil rig in trouble.
Oh my gosh.
And so, and every turn, the other thing is every turn, if you're walking through the hall and you drop dice down the tower and they click-clack all the way through into different quadrants of the board, and that's how the oil spreads across the board.
Nice. I mean, that's bad.
Yeah, but it's intuitive. The threat develops naturally. You see where the danger is coming.
Right.
And then it's time to react to it. So it makes it feel like you're really going through that.
Right.
But those click-clacks, like people will stop and like, whoa, what's that? Oh my God, what is on the table?
Like what is happening? Yes.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh, well, it's a game about holding back the oil from a major spill, removing what you can from the water and saving the sea life. And they're like, whoa. In fact, so it's interesting. Now, I think some people probably say, oh, well, is that fun? Right?
Sure,
There's going to be people who are like, oh, it's kind of a downer that you're losing animals. And I mean, for people, some people, it's like, they get so connected to those pieces, they're like, it feels bad, right?
Yes, it does. But for me, the emotional investment is what makes the game good.
That's my feeling too. Like, you experience this. In fact, what I'll tell you is when we kickstarted this, we had a number of backers who were involved in this industry.
Oh.
Who had companies that were formed after the Gulf spill to help try to address future problems.
Sure.
So there's a company in the UK who saw it and said, listen, we understand that this is supposed to be fun. It's an abstraction of real life.
Right.
It's not, simulation.
Right.
But you have captured what we do.
Wow.
And therefore, we'd like you to send us some copies because we want to use it to indoctrinate people, when they come into the company, help them understand what it is that we do, because this is what we do.
Well, yeah, that's awesome.
So I thought that was, impressive.
Yeah, well, that's not nothing, right? When people from the industry that your game is about are like,
yeah, you captured something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because anybody could just, I made this game and it's about this, and it can be a slapped on thing, but when it actually matters, and the theme is there, I believe you were telling me about Be Hexed earlier this morning.
I was, yep.
You said like 3 things about this game, and I already knew who I was going to play it with.
Right.
So please tell us about The Hexed.
Sure. So The Hexed is, let's see, it is a very unconventional deck building game.
Yeah, you had me at deck building first.
Right.
Continue.
And you're either going to love it for deck building because it's going to introduce some new concepts, or you're like, this is not what I expect from a deck builder.
That's not my deck builder.
Right,
yeah.
Because we really break all the tropes.
Sure.
So one of the things is even the game flow. Thematically, mechanically what you're doing, you are in a wizardly battle. Imagine you're almost like Harry Potter in the Room of Requirement, and you're like casting spells and deflecting them and sending them to other players. That's what this thing is. So when you cast a hex on a player, they're going to now be the target of that spell.
Right on.
So when you play a card, it's both a defense to block as well as a redirect, so it's attack to another player. And it's your turn when you're attacked.
When you get hit.
Well, when you're attacked.
When you're attacked. Oh yeah, because you don't necessarily get hit.
You're not necessarily hit, because your hand is what's keeping you safe. All those magical spells are what you're using to get rid of it. Now, that means as you play more cards, your hand dwindles and you get closer to be a sitting duck. And if you're a sitting duck, well, that hex is hitting you right in the face and points are exchanged.
Right.
But all the rules on the cards are what, you're adding new effects to the spell. You're switching situations around. You're canceling things. Like it's, and in the end, it's almost a little bit like a Magic the Gathering draft as you play. You're drafting the cards.
Well, I like a little bit of chaos in my games.
Yes.
Or a lot of bit of chaos sometimes. Who am I fooling? And this, when you were talking about it, just sounded like controlled chaos.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I was like, I'm in. I know who I'm going to play this with because we're gonna go nuts. It's going to be like, this is a game where I feel like there's a lot of like not so fast.
Correct.
You know, and then some
there's
like
plenty of those moments.
As things go.
And then the other thing too is like, so it makes sense. Like if you can target and beat someone down, you're like, oh well, you target the leader, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Simple. Except not so simple because that's what gives you the opportunity to buy a new card. All the new power cards at the center of the table. If you're attacked, first thing you do is buy a card. And it's going to cause you to sacrifice cards out of your hand, making you weaker, but that card that you bought goes right into your hand for immediate use.
Wow.
And, and then some of the cards you might buy for what seem like counterintuitive reasons. Because victory points on the cards are only victory points if they're attached to negative effects for you.
Oh.
So you bought the card for the victory points, and now you think you can mitigate those negative effects through gameplay.
I can deal with this because it's going to be worth this when we're done.
And by the way, I'm going to buy this other card that I'm going to use to cancel that thing, and it's going to be fine.
I love the combos. That's awesome.
So it's weird, it's cool, but it's actually gotten quite a nice reaction here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And again, like, all of your games feel so different, but I'm seeing the through line, though, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the story, it's the community, it's the, as we go through and walking away with, can you believe that this happened? We just played this game and this happened. All right, and I know you've got Adventure Party coming soon. You cannot sleep.
No.
We cannot sleep on this.
All right, so this just came off a Kickstarter. We opened up the late backing this weekend. So it's a weird one.
Okay.
Because it is a party weight guessing game that ends up delivering a very robust role-playing experience.
I'm here for it.
Those sentences don't make sense, right?
No, they're usually that's two different hemispheres. Right.
So that's the magic of the game, and the only way to understand it is to experience it. So, for example, every round there's going to be a new adventure that is drawn by the GM, right? And this very lovely text says something to the effect of, the dragon's about to attack you. What do you do? Much better than that.
Sure. I mean, there's like 7 more words on that card than what
At least 7,
Just 7.
But in any case, so what I would do then is, let's say I'm the bard, and I've got this little screen that, I can, just kind of little private DM screen.
Okay.
I'm going to choose one of 2 item cards. And let's say it's the Crossbow of Fear.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So I'm going to say, all right, so I want to use my Crossbow of Fear against this dragon. And I'm now going to announce my plan with that. So the bard says, a dragon is a big, big creature. And, I'm not sure my singing is really going to be enough.
Right.
So I also don't want to engage tight.
Right.
So I'm going to pull out a ranged weapon, and the Crossbow of Fear, if I can get an eye or like a soft tissue in the mouth or something, if I can put the dragon back on its haunches with this fear spell in there,
right?
Well, we're
now
advantaged.
We're moving. Right.
So that's the plan. Now I'm going to take a 20-sided die. I'm going to roll it behind my screen, and then I'm going to tell you what actually happens to me based on that roll.
Nice.
Knowing that 20, everything went great, but even a 20 won't kill the dragon because we all are going to face the dragon.
Sure.
Right. 1, miserable. Everything goes terrible, but I'm not dead because I'm playing the rest of the game.
Right. Okay.
Right. 10, just barely of success, probably with complications, and 9, barely a failure, but at least nothing else went south.
Right. Yeah, you didn't shoot yourself in the foot with the fear spell.
Right.
Yeah.
So, based on that spectrum of 1 to 20, I've rolled a number.
Right.
And now I'll describe what happens so that you as the GM, the guest master, can tell me what I rolled as close as possible.
Oh, that's slick.
So for example, all right, so the bard, gets their crossbow ready. They take aim. They loose. The arrow flies across. And just as it heads towards the dragon, it rears back to start breathing in for a fiery breath. The eye is not going to be a shot for me, and it ends up hitting one of the canines right in the front, and it deflects it, and it ends up jabbing it in the gum.
Okay.
Now, no damage on the dragon.
Sure.
Right? I mean, a bolt in it between its teeth is it's a toothpick.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we do see all of a sudden the dragon, you see the eyes kind of flip back and forth just a little bit. And it takes half a step back as it starts reevaluating. Now, clearly it's not flying off in terror.
Right, but it sounds like you might have, I don't want to step on it.
Right.
But I think I have an idea of what you might have rolled.
Yeah, so in any case, now as the GM, you would have a clarifying question you could ask. Now, you can't quantify, it can't be like, is the dragon half dead? But it could be, what's the dragon's reaction? Are we in a better or worse position? Something narrative.
Right.
What do you got?
I'm going to say you rolled like a 10 or an 11, so I have to give you one number?
Yes.
So 10 was like barely a success, and 9 was barely a fail. I'm going to say a 10.
Gotcha. So I rolled a 12.
Oh!
Right?
Great.
So very close.
Yeah.
Now, if you guessed exactly, would have been 5 experience points.
Okay.
You're 2 away. No, you're 2 away. So 3 experience points.
Oh, beauty.
There.
Sweet.
So, and then we move around the table. So now I'm the guest master, someone else is, and you're still fighting the dragon. Everyone gets a shot at the dragon, everyone gets to be the lead guesser, and then you're off to the new adventure.
Right on. And then most experience points at the end?
Well, no, it's a cooperative game again.
Oh, so yeah, you're just going for a score then, right?
Yeah, and then whoever has the most personal glory. So if you're not the lead guesser, everyone gets a chance to guess at the table for every scenario.
Right.
And if it's not your turn to be the lead guesser, you're gaining personal glory.
Okay.
And whoever has the most of that, not only, you get a little bragging right?
For sure.
But what you really get is the ability to tell the bard's tale of how we'll all be remembered after all our...
The winners write the history books,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
So. Well, what is awesome to me that just occurred, and I think it's great, is that the die roll, you're not getting hosed by bad die rolls.
No.
Because they just have to guess whether you failed or not.
Correct.
And you just got to keep the story going.
Yeah, in fact... I don't call this a storytelling game.
Right.
Because storytelling games, you're judged for your creativity.
Yeah, the judge mechanic can be not for everyone for sure.
Yeah.
You can lose people immediately.
And people feel the pressure of not wanting to be judged.
Right.
I'm not that creative. This is actually a clue-driven guessing game. So you are trying to provide enough information that they can understand how well or poorly you rolled. And that's very different.
Yes.
So it's great for role players. It's great for board gamers. And if you think about people coming out of like the D&D movie who might be role play curious, this could be their first taste of adventure.
Nice little gateway right into that, right?
Yeah.
Well, the other thing then is the replayability. Even if we were just doing that scenario, like, well, let's do that one again. Let's try something different.
Completely different. Yeah.
And that's rad. Yeah. That's brilliant. That's really good.
So, and we even have like D&D luminaries who are doing an expansion for us.
Oh.
So we're a special signature edition where we've got Luke Gygax and Todd Stashwick.
Those are some names.
Yeah.
Those are some names.
And so they've written new adventures and autographed them.
Well, and Stashwick is even unique in his own way because he's an actor that's in a ton of stuff. He's like that guy.
Right.
Like you've seen him in a movie or a show and you just didn't know it.
He was just in Picard. He was amazing.
Yeah, he was so good. Like, because I wanted to hate him so much. And I loved him by the end. I'm like, but he always is, I shouldn't say always, but he is so good at playing like those jerky kind of guys and stuff. I love it. But I follow him on social media and stuff because it's always exciting to me when it's like, famous people play board games too, and role-playing games and stuff like that. But yeah, that's so cool to hear. That's brilliant. That is brilliant.
And of course, should this go well, and I really suspect it will.
You've got a market for it.
Yeah, every time we actually put it on the table, I think we did a Kickstarter and it was okay as a Kickstarter, but I think it was hard for people to wrap their heads around what it really is. What's the experience?
This is a bring somebody in, let me show you this game.
And when we show that experience off, they were like, mine?
It's almost what I would call like a con game, because not like a con artist, but like a convention game, because you get people to come in and demo it at your booth, and then they're like, when can I buy it?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, where is it? Where is it? Can I buy it? And then it sounds like, and again, I just got the overview, but like even if I was at a convention all day, which I have been, that after the show,
you're taking this out.
We could bring this out, and I don't have to fight through a rule book, and we can just sit back and BS. And if you want to have a beverage while you do it, you can. And you just have this awesome,
that's
fun,
what it's about.
Rousing experience.
Yeah,
that's brilliant, dude. That is so good.
Well, and this is one of the things where you're like, how could this game have never been created before?
Yeah.
Right? It's such a brilliant, simple idea.
I keep trying to think of like things that are like, because a lot of times, right, when I'm teaching games, you scaffold on other games people have played, right? It's like, well, it's like this, but it's going to do something a little bit different.
Yeah.
But if you kind of already know how to play this, but this is so unique.
Yeah.
Like, I love it because, and again, like I'm waiting for when it's like, oh, and I'm going to roll the die, and it's like, okay, here's where you get screwed by the randomness. No, it's the storytelling. No,
in fact, it's great to roll a 1. It's hysterical.
It's just like real D&D though.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Because it's like, it's not how you fail, it's how bad and how dramatic is the failure is the beauty of it.
Yeah. And the other fun thing too is when you're playing, oh my God, I think I just train wrecked my brain.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Did you go blank?
I did.
Okay, that's fine.
Isn't that fun? Okay, no, never mind.
It's Saturday of a show,
It was
man.
very, very important what I had to say.
It was so important. It was the most important thing ever. I love it. But
never mind.
No, that's cool. It's so cool. Do you want to show Shobu real quick? I think
it's not. No, that box is holding.
Oh, that's holding this.
Because there's no real box for it.
No. Let me just say though, again, and this is a consistent thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not blowing smoke. The art design.
Oh, thank you.
The art on this, like everything else, right?
Yeah.
The presence, because what's going to happen is if somebody's walking through a demo hall and all these people are sitting behind these little player screens,
right?
And then you hear these eruptions, you know, it's like everybody's like, well, what's that?
Yeah.
You know, and again, a through line.
Yeah, and honestly, if the artwork, there's a story behind that too.
Okay.
Because when I originally was working on this game, my vision for it was to have like, you know, almost like 70s style, old school.
Oh, right, yeah.
Like, you know, make it feel really D&D kind of thing.
I was playing D&D back when you had to calculate THAC0, so I get it. Yeah, I'm here for it.
But there was this, you know, like, you know, hard black lined, kind of, you know, flat color kind of a feel to it. And I was like, that might be cool here. But I ended up looking at a couple of artists that, you know, kind of honored it, but of course modernized it a little bit. And weirdly, so I started showing the artwork to retailers to like kind of get a feel for like, you know, hey, what do you think? Because I like to talk to retailers and people in the industry to say, you know, does this feel...
You can't just sell games at conventions.
Right.
You gotta,
and so I rely on that feedback. And a weird thing happened that I didn't expect. I was showing like multiple art styles, including the one that I wanted, and the guys saw that piece of art and were like, oh my God, great, I love that. That's so cool.
Right.
And every woman retailer was like, oh no, that's,
Oh, okay.
And I was like, well, so can you talk about that? It's like, and some were like, I just don't like it. And finally someone actually was able to
like pinpoint it?
Yeah, you know, that art reminds me of a time when I was not welcome at the table. And I was like, oh. Fair. Wow, I you know, obviously blindsided to that because I didn't have that experience, right?
Right.
So in any case, so that guided it more towards like a 5e or a video game mentality as I was looking at the illustrations, and so it reflects the kind of the new face of role playing.
Beautiful.
And,
that's wonderful.
Yeah, and so you know, and I always learn something on these projects.
Well, and you don't know always what you don't know, right? You know, you come in and it's not like blinders, but sometimes you're in it so deep you don't see the forest for the trees. Yeah. And it's awesome though that you allow yourself to be receptive to the feedback. Yeah. And then like it's actually meaningful. You know what I mean? And you're like, no, I completely understand. And the other thing was, since you had all those options, it was easy to pivot and go, like, I'm good with any of these. I like this, but like we still have all these fantastic options. Yeah. That's great, man. What a good story. I love it. I love it. Is there anything else we need to hit on before I let you get back to your booth?
Man. You know, I think we've talked about almost everything. We
kind of have.
I mean, other than the Night Cage expansion coming in October 3rd.
Okay. Yes, please. Let's do this real quick. I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
So it's an expansion. It's not standalone. It bolts onto the original game.
Sure.
And it's got a sideboard on it now.
Okay.
Which is the Hollow. So it's Night Cage, the Shrieking Hollow, and down at the bottom of this long pit is a massive creature that will take up half of the board if it ever climbs out of the hollow.
Oh, God.
And the only way to stop it from climbing out is for you to go down into the hollow with your candle to hold it back as long as you can.
Oh, that's the worst. It's so it's making me nervous just thinking about it.
Exactly, yeah.
Not Night Cage, if you don't know, it's so tense.
Yeah.
And that candle feature, and then the way you have to draw the tiles and place them, and the decisions you have to make.
Yeah.
Oh.
So this adds just a little bit more drama, the bigness of that creature, because when it hits the board, it advances onto the board and starts chasing you across the board.
Oh,
and
no.
It's just,
oh, no. That's so good.
Just the way it makes you feel, you're like, oh, I don't know.
No. You could have just called it no.
Nope.
Right? Like, nope.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'm really looking forward to that because we already love Night Cage. So, and give us more, and it's still in that, like, just like, how do we intensify this theme? You know, because your knob went to 10, now your knobs all go to 11 with that.
Yeah.
Holy crap, that sounds awesome. I had no idea that was coming. So
yeah, so that there actually we only just announced it here at the show, so it's kind of a
brilliant.
scoop.
Woo! We got a scoop. That's fantastic. Kurt, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
I met you this morning, but I feel like now I've known you for forever. And I mean that in the best way possible. You know, you didn't have to say yes to this. I'm very grateful for you.
Oh, no, thank you. I love doing this. So,
you know, and we've been talking for like almost at least an hour maybe, or close to an hour. And I don't want to take up any more of your time. I'm so grateful, man. Guys, Smirk and Dagger. Is it cool to call you Smirk and Dagger?
No, we're Smirk and Dagger now.
Okay.
We've collapsed all back to one now.
Smirk and Dagger, if you call them Smirk and Laughter, they'll be fine with it.
Sure, it's fine.
That's fine. But it doesn't matter because you're going to be buying a great game with table experience, you know, table presence, and you're going to come away with great stories to tell. I know from my own experience.
Yeah.
I'm saying that before he was sitting here, I promise you.
Well, thank you.
But no, you're the best, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. For the Board Game Rundown, I've been Tim.
I'm Kurt.
Yes! We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye.